Imagine a boy so poor he sells tea on dusty streets, yet at night he stares at the stars, dreaming of galaxies far beyond his tiny world. This is not just a story, it's a journey of hope, courage, and unshakable dreams. Welcome. I'm your host, Steven Spielberg, and today I'll take you through The Boy Who Sold Tea But Dreamed of the Stars, an emotional and motivational journey proving that no dream is too big, no matter how small your beginning.
In a quiet, dusty village, a young boy stood at a tiny wooden stall, pouring hot, steaming tea into clay cups for tired travelers. His eyes, though weary, sparkled with curiosity as he gazed at the endless sky above. Customers laughed, bargained, and hurried, but the boy's heart wandered far beyond the tea stall. Every evening, while his hands worked, his mind counted the twinkling stars and wondered about galaxies he had never seen. His father reminded him daily, "Work hard, son. Dreams don't fill empty stomachs." But the boy smiled quietly. He had already decided. His stomach could be empty for now, but his heart would always stay full of dreams. At night, when the village slept, he opened old torn books borrowed from a kind teacher. Under the flickering flame of an oil lamp, he traced constellations on yellowed pages, whispering their names softly as though they were friends. Sometimes exhaustion made his head fall on the book, ink smudging his cheeks. But even in half-sleep, he dreamed of rockets, planets, and stars, far greater than the tiny world of teacups and coins he lived in. Villagers whispered, "What foolishness! A chaiwala wanting the stars? He should learn to earn, not to dream." But ridicule only added fuel to his fire. Their words became wind, pushing his small boat forward into the unknown. One day, a traveler saw the boy staring at the horizon while serving tea. He asked, "What are you looking at?" The boy replied softly, "The stars. They remind me of where I belong." The traveler left, smiling deeply. His friends mocked him, "You think you'll touch the stars?" But he never argued. He simply poured tea with one hand and held dreams with the other, believing that someday his tea stall would be the beginning of his story. Often he stood barefoot on the dusty road outside his stall, staring at the Milky Way with childlike wonder. Each star seemed to whisper, "Keep going, we are waiting." His heart beat stronger with every silent call from the cosmos. That night, as the oil lamp flickered, he whispered a promise to himself. "One day, I will rise beyond this tea stall and touch the stars." The universe seemed to listen, nodding gently with every twinkle above.
Days turned into months, yet the boy's routine never changed. Morning till dusk, he sold tea. Night after night, he devoured borrowed astronomy books, memorizing constellations as if they were sacred verses written only for him. His earnings were barely enough to feed himself, let alone buy new books. Still, he saved every coin he could, sometimes skipping meals just to afford another page of the universe bound inside fragile paper. Many laughed. A chaiwala with stars in his eyes? Dreams don't pay rent. Yet their mockery became music to his soul. Each insult hardened his spirit, transforming his pain into quiet determination. One stormy night, rain leaked through the roof of his hut. His astronomy book was drenched, ink fading like his fragile hopes. For a moment, tears rolled down his cheeks, but his resolve didn't break. He dried the pages carefully by the fire, whispering, "If my dreams can survive the storm, so can I." That night, the boy wrote formulas on scraps of paper, his handwriting shaky but full of fire. Hunger often clawed at his belly. Some nights he went to bed without food, but he reminded himself, stars don't shine because they are fed, they shine because they burn, and he was ready to burn for his dream. One day the kind teacher noticed his dedication and secretly gifted him an old telescope, cracked but still usable. His hands trembled as he held it, as though the universe itself had come into his grasp. That night he set the telescope on the dusty ground outside his stall. For the first time he saw Jupiter's moons. His heart pounded as tears blurred his sight. This was proof his dreams were real. Each glimpse of the universe was fuel to his spirit. He realized knowledge was not just in books, but in the heavens themselves, waiting for those who dared to look up. He whispered into the silent night, "No matter how long it takes, one day the world will know the story of a chaiwala who touched the stars." The stars seemed to twinkle brighter in reply. The boy's nights grew longer, his oil lamp burning until dawn. While the village slept, he solved equations on scraps of paper, his hands blistered from work, but his mind flying among planets and galaxies. One evening, a traveler returned, noticing the boy's telescope. Curious, he asked to look through it. When he saw the excitement in the boy's eyes, he asked, "What do you dream of?" The boy replied, "The stars." Impressed, the traveler introduced him to a nearby city school, but fees were too high, and the boy's heart sank. Still, he refused to quit. He decided to sell twice as much tea to save every coin. He worked tirelessly, carrying kettles through streets, serving tea at crowded markets, sometimes until midnight. Every coin saved was not just money, it was a brick building the bridge between a chaiwala and a scientist. His hands cracked from the heat of boiling water, and his feet ached from endless hours of standing. But inside, he felt richer than kings, for every sacrifice was an investment in his dream. Finally, after months, he had enough to pay the first term. The day he walked into the school, dusty clothes and trembling hands, many students mocked him. But his determination was louder than their laughter. The teacher asked, "Why do you want to study the stars?" The boy answered, "Because they remind me that even the smallest flame can shine in the darkest night." The classroom fell silent. Slowly, he rose to the top of the class, solving problems beyond his grade. His teachers noticed his brilliance and began guiding him, nurturing the flame he carried from his tea stall to their classroom. Yet each night, after school, he still returned to his tea stall. With one hand, he poured tea for customers. With the other, he held books, proving that no dream requires choosing between survival and passion. One night, after a long day of work and study, he gazed at the stars and whispered, "This is only the beginning." And the stars blinked back as if to say, "We are waiting." Years passed, and the boy, once mocked as a chaiwala, became the brightest student in his village school. But deep inside, he knew his real journey had only just begun. He wanted to reach the world of science itself. News spread of a scholarship exam in the city. Winning it meant a free path to higher studies. With trembling hands, he filled the form, whispering, "This is my chance to touch the stars." The day of the exam, he traveled barefoot miles to the city center, clutching his telescope like a companion. Around him stood hundreds of well-dressed students, but his spirit outshone their fancy clothes. He wrote answers with such passion that ink stained his fingers. Equations flowed from his pen like poetry, each line carrying years of hunger, sacrifice, and hope. Weeks later, a letter arrived. His hands shook as he opened it by the tea stall. His eyes filled with tears. It was acceptance. He had won the scholarship. For a moment, the world around him froze. But joy came with challenge. The city was far, and survival there meant starting from nothing again. Still, he told himself, the stars never said the road would be easy, only that it would be worth it. He boarded a rusty bus, leaving behind his tea stall, his village, and the only world he had known. As the bus moved, he whispered a silent goodbye to the chaiwala he once was. City life was harsh. He lived in a small hostel room, often skipping meals, working part-time jobs while studying. But compared to his tea stall days, this was not sacrifice. It was opportunity. Professors were astonished by his curiosity. He asked questions others never thought of. His hunger for knowledge was greater than his hunger for food. And slowly, he began to shine in the city too. Every night, on the rooftop of the hostel, he gazed at the city sky. Fewer stars, more smoke, but still he whispered, "One day I will go even beyond this sky." His dream had outgrown the village and now aimed for the universe itself.
In the city university, he faced a mountain of challenges. Students came with expensive gadgets, while he carried only his old telescope and a notebook full of dreams. Yet his curiosity burned brighter than any equipment. He studied for hours in the library, his fingers tracing diagrams of galaxies as though he were touching them. Books became his closest friends, guiding him when loneliness pressed heavy on his heart. His professors soon noticed his brilliance. They encouraged him to present research papers. Standing nervously before experts, he shared ideas that amazed them. The chaiwala was now a voice respected among scholars. Still, poverty shadowed him. He worked nights cleaning classrooms, sweeping floors, and carrying water jars. By day, he studied celestial mechanics. By night, he learned humility through labor. Sometimes exhaustion made him collapse at his desk. But in those moments, he remembered the tea stall, the mocking villagers, and the promise he once made under the stars. He rose again, stronger. Opportunities opened. He earned a chance to join an internship at a space research center. Walking into the lab for the first time, he felt like that barefoot chaiwala had finally stepped onto the doorstep of the universe. His nights shifted from pouring tea to analyzing data of stars. Computers and telescopes surrounded him. Yet his old cracked telescope still stood on his desk as a reminder of where he came from. One evening, staring at data of a distant galaxy, he whispered, "I am no longer just looking at the stars. I am learning to speak their language." Recognition slowly came. His professors proudly introduced him as the boy who transformed struggle into science. For the first time, he felt the world beginning to see not just a chaiwala, but a scientist. Yet every night, he still looked up at the same sky. He knew his journey was far from over. The stars are calling, and I am still on my way. Years later, the boy who once poured tea stood before a towering rocket at the National Space Center. His heart raced not from fear, but from gratitude for the journey that brought him here. As a lead scientist, he now guided teams, his name respected across the world. Yet, in his pocket, he carried a small clay cup from his tea stall days, his symbol of humble beginnings. The launch countdown began. Tears welled in his eyes as he realized this moment was not just his, but for every child who had been told dreams don't fill empty stomachs. Flames roared, the rocket soared skyward, breaking through clouds. He whispered to himself, "Once I sold tea, today I send dreams to the stars." The villagers who once mocked him now gathered in front of televisions, pointing in disbelief. "That's our chaiwala," they exclaimed, tears of pride replacing their old laughter. His father, old and frail, held the letter of his son's achievement. Whispering with trembling lips, he said, "My boy reached the stars." In that moment, the boy realized the truth. Success is not escaping your roots, but carrying them proudly into the skies. His tea stall had been his first launch pad. Standing under the vast night sky, he whispered to children watching him, "Never stop dreaming. Even if the world laughs, your stars are waiting." His journey from chaiwala to scientist became a legend, told in classrooms and villages alike, proving that no dream is too big, no beginning too small. And so his story ends where it began, under the stars. But the message remains, never stop dreaming big.
So, what do you think? Can dreams really turn chai into rockets and poverty into possibility? Tell us in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes the smallest stories carry the biggest stars.